system's coming
First thing we'll do is call the meeting to order. The first thing we'll do is have the pledge of allegiance to the flag.
That means go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first thing we're going to do is approve or amend the night meeting minutes of May 30. Wait, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry, forgot. Roll call.
Dale Ames.
Here.
John Sutherland.
here.
Kelly Piero.
Yes.
Kristen Mullen.
Here.
Harold Jorgensen. Coming. Walter Cleek.
Here.
Jeff Pelon.
Present.
Liz Stockman.
Present.
Mary Wagner.
Yes.
Okay, then we'll go on to approve, amend tonight's meeting agenda from May 30th, 2017. Somebody like to make this motion? Well, I'll make a motion that we amend, or approve this as it was mailed. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next thing we'll do is approve or amend the April 25th, 2017 Planning and Zoning meeting minutes. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Commissioner Pearl made the motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chair, I'll second.
Okay. Commissioner Sedla, seconded. Is there any further discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. First, we'll have the clerk read the meeting policy.
The agenda is printed as or amended will be followed as all necessary and needed actions by the commission will be addressed. The agenda can be amended by proper motion. Business from the floor is welcome and is allotted for on our agenda. When comments from the floor are made, you must first be recognized by the chair. Second, state your name and address for the record. And third, you will have no more than 3 minutes to state your comment or concern. Copies of the agenda and other handouts are available at the back table. Please sign in and turn cell phones off.
Okay, was there any floor items? There was no floor items. Okay, the first thing we're going to have on the agenda is a request for a variance for reconstruction of fire damaged home by Todd and Mary Hulberg, 18330 Waco Street. PID is number 36-33-25-42-0011. Owner did not make an application for a building permit within 180 days of the fire, so variance is required to place the home closer to Waco Street than the 120 feet setback. At this time, we'll ask our planner for the information on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, yes, as you stated, what happened was we weren't aware that they needed to make a reapplication for a building permit within 180 days of the fire. So we're at the point where they're requesting a variance to put the house back at the 104-foot setback. That is measured from the center line of Waco Street. The house has been demolished, so they didn't have a foundation from which to measure an exact setback. So we are going off of the aerial photograph to estimate what the setback was previously. If you note on the list of written setbacks throughout the neighborhood that Mr. Hobrick submitted, that's Exhibit F. he had just guessed at the setback at 110 feet. And then after that is when we were able to take a look at the aerial photo and estimate that it's closer to 104. So he's requesting 104 at this time. Also, on the last exhibit, which is the findings of fact, I was made aware of an error on page 2, which item 5 inappropriately references a lot split, which it is not. So that would be the last, basically the last line of item 5 there. It is not a lot split, it's simply a variance request related to the setback. So his, Todd and Mary's request is based on practical difficulties, based on the fire and the configuration of the existing lot. There is a wetland in the back, which is quite large, and without this variance, they feel they would not have much of a rear yard area to utilize. And if you look throughout, there's an aerial photograph in Exhibit E where I have indicated the setbacks of the adjacent parcels. So the property to the north is set way back, or the home is rather, 272 feet. And the property to the south is 72 feet back from the center line. The one across the street is 96 feet back, and the other two nearby are 160 and 104. So there's a lot of variety in setbacks throughout the neighborhood. So our office feels that the request is reasonable and that it fits in with the other homes in the area. But it is a policy decision on your part based on those criteria in the report. Thank you.
Now, does the planning and zoning have any questions here about this? I believe this is down in Rogers Lake, isn't it, Gary?
Yes.
And this is probably one of the first developments in the city.
Yeah, it's quite old, yes.
So that's why a lot of these lots have, they don't meet the setback.
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
just a general question. Are they able to use the existing septic, or do they have to use their secondary site?
I'm not sure.
No, my septic was non-compliant, so I had to put a new septic in too.
This is the same footage you had before with the old house was 105 feet, right?
The setback,
Yeah, setback.
same setback.
So it's the same thing. If you come in and applied, you wouldn't have had to ask for a variance because it's already in effect.
Correct.
Has the applicant got anything to say about this? Anything?
Not really, I mean, I'm just trying to get my house back where it was, and if I have to push it back another 15 feet, then that, I'm not gonna put back, I had a multi-level home, I wanna put a rambler back in there so that it'll be wider than the existing home was. So in essence, it's already pushing it to the back. And if I go back another 15 feet, then I'm right up against some oak trees that are about this big, and I prefer not to cut those down. Plus, if it's back where it was, it sits up on the lot better, because my lot is kind of a hill. It slopes up where the house was hitting, and it goes back to the wetlands and down to the road.
Okay. Is there any opposition to this here? People have a chance to make a statement. Our clerk does have a letter she'd like to read. Oh, wait, that's for the next one, I'm sorry. Right, okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I could ask a question. Are you gonna put in a new driveway?
I will have to, yeah, because
You're gonna come to the front of the house now?
houses nowadays, they don't make anything. I had a side loading garage.
Yeah,
Now the garage will face the street,
okay.
so I'll leave a driveway to my existing garage, it's still there. But I'll have to put another one up to the new house.
Okay.
Have any more questions?
Are you gonna connect to that existing driveway, or are you gonna be asking for a second driveway on your property?
Well, I'll have to put
Curious.
another driveway up to the new house.
A second driveway?
Well, basically, it'll fork off from the other driveway,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Are there any more questions that we have as commission? Seeing that we have no more questions, we'll put it up for vote. We can make a motion to send this to the council if we,
Commissioner,
yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve it.
Okay, Commissioner Pearl, or Moen made the motion to approve it. Do we have a second?
Commissioner,
Commissioner Pearl.
I make a motion to second it.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
Do we need to add to the motion that we adopt the recommendations of the planner?
Yeah, I would make a reference to the 5 conditions listed in the findings of fact.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, may revise may to approve based on the findings of fact.
Is that okay with you?
Yep, I'll second that too.
Okay, okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. At the next city council meeting, they'll be acting upon it.
June 15th. June 15th, there'll be a workshop, we'll discuss it on the 8th. That's what most of the discussion will be.
Okay,
We're gonna be there 7 o'clock on June 8th.
same place.
Yep. And then the vote will actually be on the 13th.
Okay.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a request for a conditional use permit for parking lot setback and a conditional use permit for expanding of a motor fuel facility by Bill's Superette Store and Gas Station and adjacent land by the Rademacher family. And this is 8077 Viking Boulevard. The PIN number is 20-33-25-44-0015. So we'll let our planner at this time.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. 2 conditional use permits are requested here, one for the expansion of motor fuel facility. So I want you all to understand what happens when an existing business is in place and the city rezones the property or changes the ordinance. It is assumed that an existing business has a conditional use permit. So because the Rademachers bought the property before we amended our ordinance to make gas stations require a CUP, we are having him, because of the most likely increase in traffic, it's considered an amended CUP at the present time to allow that expansion of the motor fuel facility. So that's the first CUP. The second CUP is related to the setback of the parking area, which is the new driveway on the north side of the site. We can combine those into one, so there'll just be one findings of fact, all together under a single legal document. As you were reading the report, there were several outstanding issues related to the criteria under which the motor fuel facilities can be approved in that C1 district. We cannot expect an existing business to meet all those little details necessarily. If you feel that there are a few specific things like landscaping and anything related to signage or site circulation that would be, you know, that you want to deviate from based on the plans he's shown, we can change that. But I wouldn't necessarily expect him to meet, you know, put in a grit separator or change the, you know, the distance between pumps necessarily that are existing. When he's putting in a new pump island, then that island has to meet the requirements that we've set forth. But most of the time, cities will allow the existing operation, especially if there's not been any problems in functioning to coexist as it has been. So I did bring and hand out the sort of a draft findings of fact with some conditions and then sort of a bullet list of things that we can discuss. So it may end up being kind of a long discussion, but we do need to kind of go one by one and address the requirements that have been set forth. So I think for now, we'll just leave it at that and open it up for discussion. And maybe Mr. Rademacher would like to say a few words, I don't know. Thank you.
Okay, does the commission here have any questions regarding the staff's presentation in the report?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Sutton.
Just some minor questions about the driveway across the back. Is there any major grade changes that are gonna have to, between you and the park land? Is there gonna be a, you know, retaining wall or?
No retaining wall scheduled. If you walk the property to the, as you get up to 5, there's virtually no grade change. I would say maybe inches, eyeballing it. As you get further west toward our building now, there is a 1.5-foot retaining wall, but there's a chain link fence there. So that's why I believe that was installed then. It's designed now to be graded right into the parkland with no retaining wall.
And I'm not, I know about where it is, but exactly where the property line is, would you have to take out any other trees on the parkland to, you know, go up right to the property line?
All those trees would have to come out regardless, in my opinion.
Okay.
And I think on the city's behalf, I think we want them to come out because they look like crap, in my opinion. Half of them are leaning. We've taken a few down as they've fallen over on our property. If you walk out there, it's a mess. I think it would be a nice look if we took them all out, planted some new ones, and then we're able to maintain it and mow it and make it look like Risky Park.
Sure.
Can't speak on your behalf, but that's the one I'm hoping you buy.
Do we have a recommendation at all from our planner about how much distance do we need for a really snow pileup? I know you can't go by the last 3 winters.
Well, you know, the plows through this area aren't gonna be going at high speed, so it doesn't spray like it would along the county roads. It's basically, no, there's no specified distance to answer your question. I would say, you know, typically 3 to 5 feet, but it always depends on the winter, and you can always, you know, attach a condition that If it gets above a certain height, and many times the property owners want to reduce the snowbank heights, especially as you would near Now Then Boulevard, for instance, or the other Viking, for visibility reasons. You know, you will have to decide and comment about, you know, using part of the parkland for snow storage. I mean, while it is a separate property, it's not a, you know, heavily used area during the winter months. So in that sense, it's not necessarily that offensive, but you as a group will have to comment on that.
I have a question. Them trees are all on park property there. And I was going through you had a diagram, a red line going through there. I can't find it right now, but it shows that red line over quite a bit further over from the trees. So is that the lot line?
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, that's
The
what I'm-
aerial photo with the red line. So the red line shows the Rademacher property lines. This is amazingly accurate, actually. This is the aerial photo from the Anoka County website. This is Exhibit D, everybody. So I
Ours are
believe,
in black and white.
oh, you
The red
guys,
line
you
isn't
guys
showing up
have.
as well.
Yes, you're right, so, well, I'll have to let Lori know if there's anything that I want in color.
Well, I thought it was in color and I can't find it. I've seen it. Oh, it was on the internet.
You looked online?
Oh, that was, or it was.
Yeah, maybe
oh,
online.
Okay, it was online, that's why.
So all this was really showing was the 5 lots grouped all together. But I would say it's about 50-50. About half of the trees are on the Rademacher property and about half are on the park property that he's proposing to remove. Most of them would probably come out most for grading reasons, if anything. But some are right on the property line the way it looks. And I know I heard some rumors this week about, you know, the city owning those trees and whatnot. But if they're on the Rademacher property, they are Rademacher trees. If they're on the city property, they're city trees. So it really doesn't matter who planted them or when necessarily. But that's the way, you know, the property line is the property line.
Which line is the,
So there's a little strip of land that is, you can pass that around maybe. There's a little strip of land where there's a storm sewer just north of the Rademacher property. And if I had to guess, I'd say, you know, it's not even parallel to the north lot line. Yeah, that little strip there, it's basically right where the trees are. It's a little strip of city land, and I asked Corey Meduser, and she had no idea why it was there either. It goes way back to when the city purchased the land, or, you know, maybe even back when it was farmed, who knows? But just pass that around if you could.
Is this existing right away already, or what?
Yes, there's some existing right-of-way where the house used to sit, where the right-of-way is different than it is on the very corner parcel of the Rademacher parcel, where the farmer's market is usually located.
Will that be dedicated? Is that the intent, or?
Yeah, that's yet to be determined if the county's gonna ask for that right-of-way. They may. He's waiting to submit the lot combination form until we hear back from the transportation department regarding that access.
where does that storm sewer go?
The storm sewer goes under Now Then Boulevard across to that Sperry Pond right there.
That one?
Yeah,
By the round barn?
yeah. So it goes into that ditch system on the other side.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just to point out, I think on the set of plans that he has on page 2 of 6, like it kind of indicates what trees he's taking out and what either, some are on either side of the lot line.
Yeah, I've labeled it Exhibit E2. It's the second page of the
Yeah. it could be
Carlson
E2.
McCain plans. Yeah, he's got X's through those trees along the property line there.
There might be a dozen trees it looks like he's taking out on the city property.
Thank you.
Originally, those trees were put in there for a buffer.
Do you recollect when those trees were placed there, Dale?
Oh, I don't recollect, it was, I don't know how many years ago.
Dale was a young man at that time.
Time goes by so fast because they've been there for 10 years and it was way before that. They were planted there. And I see it, when they planted them, they planted some over in his. But that was the idea of the trees, was for a buffer.
Yeah, I'm sure possibly it was, especially when the house was sitting there. It may have even been to separate the house from the park, who knows? The house is no longer there, so you need to decide what the impact of this, may be, whether or not this is okay with you, and then whether or not you'd like to see new plantings.
Because, see, the baseball park used to sit out right there.
Okay.
And I think that might have been part of the reason why the trees were there, to keep the balls from flying over in there.
Oh, you think?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mayor.
Liz, on the Carlson McCain drawings on 1 and 2, these are the proposed site plans with the combination of the lots.
Right, we're
So
assuming,
that shows a potential of what we're expecting the county to do for a setback. The line is straight now.
oh, yes, right. I'm guessing that he's anticipating that they will ask for that right away, and that, yes, we'll have one big rectangular lot.
So there'd be right away both on Nowthen Boulevard and on Viking Boulevard.
I'm not sure about the Vikings piece there, but for sure the Now Then Boulevard.
Looks like on the original, the one with the red line there, looks like Viking's already there.
Most of that is there, right, yes. It differs a little between the Bill's parcel now and then the vacant pieces.
I think that was because of the turn lanes though.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Went from 60 to 75 or whatever it was.
That could be,
Did I understand, when I read through there, they want to eliminate our one driveway comes in on the city property there?
yes, that was.
Why? Because that driveway is very important for people when they're going in and out of here.
Well, it, apparently there was discussed in previous years, Mr. Chair, that it wouldn't necessarily be eliminated, it would be combined with the new driveway that Mr. Rademacher is proposing.
But that wouldn't be legal because that's on different property.
Yeah, that's okay to do it that way. It's just like, the other businesses along Viking there that share we call it a frontage road, even though it's really a shared driveway along the north side of Viking there, which goes between Bill's and the bank and the liquor store and everything down the line.
In other words, right now, there's existing driveways there. In other words, the county won't allow it?
The county, right, always prefers to see.
Yeah, they always prefer, but that's not marked in granite.
No, I understand. What I'm saying is they did talk about it in previous years, and we haven't gotten the comments back yet, so,
But
from the current.
I can't see where that's an advantage by giving up our driveway.
Well, it's just being moved, look at it that way. There's still gonna be a second outlet to get out of the parking lot from the city here. It's just gonna be moved a little bit farther south to be joined with the Rademacher driveway. I mean, that's the way it's been discussed in the past. That doesn't mean you have to do it that way.
Well, you'd have to have a stop sign there then if you're gonna have truck traffic coming down through there.
Yeah,
From our,
typically,
from our side if you went that way.
a stop sign where at the,
Going on to his driveway. Otherwise, people are gonna go out there and there's trucks coming down through there.
oh, you're worried about the trucks mixing with the
Yes,
cars from the parking lot?
yes.
I see, okay. I don't know if that, I mean, if you have visibility that's good, I mean, most of the truck traffic, when people are filling up, I mean, it can be all day, obviously, but the majority is in the early morning when these diesel trucks fill up. And that is not the time, if you look at uses, when you have, for instance, baseball fields being used and this parking lot may be full. Or maybe a city meeting, this parking lot may be full. And those are more evening hours, whereas your diesel traffic tends to be early morning, so that differentiation is good. But think too, I mean, when we do provide landscaping, we like to keep that visibility open. If those two driveways intersected, if we have clear visibility, it really shouldn't be an issue, in my opinion.
I don't know, this is probably, it's the right time, we have a letter here, maybe our clerk should read it.
So an email came in this morning from Carl Nelson. He's Senior Vice President of Pine River State Bank. He was unable to make it tonight, but wanted to be heard. He said, "I won't be able to make the public hearing tonight, but I do have some brief written comments that can be heard at the hearing. Pine River State Bank owns the adjoining property immediately to the west of the subject property. Pine River State Bank supports the approval of the conditional use permit based on, number one, the Rademacher family has been good neighbors and very easy and fair to work with. Number two, the Rademacher family have made a sizable investment in the Nelvin community and continues to do so. Number three, the proposed realignment of the diesel pumps will improve traffic flow of the station and also on the access points to Viking Boulevard. And number four, improved traffic flow and ease of access means more people will stop, shop, and spend money in Nelvin, which helps support the local economy."
Thank you, Lori, for the reading. Do we have any more discussion on that? I can see that removing the trees would give a better sight pattern up there. But I know if I owned the property, I wouldn't want the trees removed as a landowner. Is that what the city wants? And the question is too, Mr. Roderbach was asking for zero lot line, go right up the lot line with the driveway. Do we want that? Our ordinance, I think, asks for 5 feet, although we have varied from that in the past. But the thing is, when you vary from this, it does set a precedence throughout the city.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Keep in mind that the ordinance does allow for deviation from that setback through the conditional use permit process. So in his situation where you've got multiple properties and uses sharing a driveway, it does allow for that deviation. And that would be to get that driveway closer to the lot line so that the combination with this parking lot and that would be easier. And then also to allow the 2 uses potentially on his property. So we do allow that by CUP. So in this situation, we're really not setting a precedent. If you feel that he meets those conditional use permit requirements, then, you know, it is what it is.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Reagan.
let's talk on a couple of questions. Okay, so I do show kind of taking out some of the trees on the city side of the line. I guess I'm wondering if we've looked at what type of trees those are. And also on their plans here, it looks like they have a portion of the driveway is having a ribbon curb along it. And basically it all tips, so basically all their drainage off of that driveway is dumping towards the city parcel. I guess I'm wondering, is that an existing ditch there that it's meant to take that? Or why are we not having them put a curb along that side? Especially with it falling off, I guess 2 or 3 feet there, to not have a full height curb on that side seems a little impractical. Whether that was intended for snow plowing or what that is, but basically they've got this whole, they call it a ribbon curb from there to down to here, and basically it all just draining off into the city parcel.
I know the intent was to direct it toward that existing storm sewer. Whether or not there are grates there that will collect it, I'm not sure. The city engineer, Shane Nelson, has not yet reviewed the plans, so we do not have comments in that regard.
So it might be that he might say, put this curb back in and collect the water in the catch basin and tie it into that storm sewer instead of surface draining it or dumping it on the
Correct.
neighboring property.
Right.
Because at the same time, if we put in a driveway in the future, we'd have to be dealing with it at that time, as a city expense.
Yeah, that's a good point. And as far as the trees go, I know they're evergreen. I do not know whether or not they're spruce or if they're, pine or what they are. So that's,
A lot of times if you have 2 rows together like that, if you take the one side down, it's gonna look terrible anyway, I guess, so it might be the case. But I guess my other question is that are they proposing, should they be proposing to put back at least 12 pine trees on the city property? Whether there's
Right.
some different configuration or other location, whether they're farther up to screen the loading station itself. There was no proposed landscape plan, was there?
no, we do not have an actual landscape plan. I
Okay.
believe Mr. Rademacher wants to hear your comments, and he's indicated his willingness to, replant some vegetation.
Okay. And yeah, maybe they get moved up so that they basically screen this pump area too, if that's, be a better location for them if they're gonna put some back.
Yes, I would suggest that our findings include a condition that one of the plans show, future trees or a
Yeah.
landscaping.
Is there any intent for any new signs out front at all or not?
Nothing on the Bill's store. The new canopy, if you look at the exhibit, it shows the photograph, which is exhibit G.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, this is a canopy that he put in another location, so, yeah, I made that note there. And it'll be blue instead of gray, but, what we need is to evaluate the signage on the whole property. When he went in, I don't even know if the city had a sign ordinance or the township. So, what I'm gonna be asking him to do is to provide the sizes of the existing signs, and then we'll determine, what we can allow on the new canopy. That's the way that we may have to approach it.
But there's no new signage planned at the new driveway location or out at the corner at this time?
Not to my knowledge, no.
I guess one more question. Is he gonna take out, are you gonna take out the existing diesel pump then, under the other island?
So the one on the east side will go away.
Okay.
That'll become gasoline. The one on the west side will stay, but it will no longer be a high flow diesel. That would just be for your cars, small amounts.
Okay.
If you'd like, we could go through the findings of fact, sort of one by one. And then we're basically covering all the different issues.
Go ahead, let's go
I'll
through
do
them.
that, okay. So starting on page 2 then. Item 1, the request meets all conditional use permit requirements of section 11-10-4 and 11-6-2 of the city zoning ordinance. One section is our general conditional use permit requirements, and the second section is the specific requirements related to motor fuel facilities. In the report, it was determined that he does meet all of the general requirements under the conditional use permit section. The items listed here, so 1A through K, we can go through and specifically talk about. As I stated, I'm going to read what the requirement is, and then we will have to note whether or not we deviate or allow him to deviate from that based on him being an existing business. So for instance, item A is referencing diesel pump island design and location, etc. The ordinance requires compliance with state and city standards for motor fuel facilities. So further down in item 4, I've listed that motor fuel facilities are installed according to all state and federal regulations. If you're satisfied with generally the way that the picture of the canopy looks, it's basically kind of mirroring the design of the existing Bill's canopy. That seems like a fairly minor thing. Then what we're concerned with next is the maneuverability through and around those pumps. And I'm sure for the large trucks, he has designed that accordingly. We have fairly minimum standards, and I know it's a state thing too to have that 6-inch curb. And he's proposing that. We can make reference to specific details. Let's see, I thought somewhere in here I had asked for, we do need the detailed architectural drawings of the diesel pump island for the building official to review. That's basically considered like an accessory structure, so that's the only part of the project that really requires the building permit. Let's see. So detailed plans and specs for the diesel pump island. Is everyone satisfied with the blue color that matches the existing canopy? Okay.
Yes. Would it be a one-way as well?
It's intended as a one-way.
They were coming in the front side?
Somebody asked that last time.
That's why we put the enter sign
Yeah.
for Viking Boulevard, yes, sir.
They'd be coming in off the Viking Boulevard side.
It's designed that way, sir.
I was just curious, because if they were coming out, trying to get out that, the entrance in front of it, there would be a little awkward for them to get over to the right side. So.
Crossing, yeah.
Yeah. We will do everything we can to train them properly.
The regulars will all know, right? So, in my opinion, I don't see any issue with the maneuverability, you know, in and around the pump area. He did increase the turning radius, from the pump, the new pumps going, east along the new driveway. So that, you know, all the trucks don't have to swing super wide there to get around that curve. So the fuel pumps will be on islands, just like the regular gas pumps are. We don't need to worry about a setback from the property line. That was the reason for combining the parcels. The setback between pump islands, curb faces, is at least 24 feet. I'm not sure if he's meeting that requirement.
I've never heard of that.
Never heard of that, requiring that?
I don't understand it. I made a note of that on my notes for you. I don't know where you got that number, but I don't
Okay.
even know what that means.
And I think what that was more intended for was the distance from a pump island to a property line. You know, like for instance, in the
That would
front
make sense.
area,
That would
yeah, because that makes more sense. Because that separation between two pumps is kind of extreme, is that what you were thinking? Okay. All right. So that takes care of A, if everybody's, feels good about the look and
The
location.
clarification on B, all pump islands setback 30 feet from property lines, but you're saying the 24 feet is between pump islands?
Additionally, the setback between pump islands, curb face must be at least 24 feet.
I think that's what it's saying, between your islands.
I think that means like,
Well, do you have any idea what it is right now?
At our stores now, I think over here we have 24. But I've never encountered that verbiage before, Mr. Mayor, so either it's a typo, could be 14 feet, but I've never heard or I've never seen that number before.
I'm thinking it's if you have two islands that are separated, so,
Well, there's 3 islands there now.
yeah, I think,
But from
well,
curb face to curb
Well-
face, they're saying if you've got a car parked and a car parked, they're saying they want room for another car to go
To get
between them,
through.
basically.
basically.
And whose ordinance is that?
This is the city ordinance, so, but this really, it really shouldn't apply to his new diesel pumps though. Because, I mean, those are just, basically, you're not gonna get two trucks, you know, going this way and next to each other through there. You have one pump for each island, or aisle, right? Because there's 3 aisles to get into the diesel pumps. So we can check out what the existing situation is, but I don't think that this necessarily applies to the diesel because it's a different setup. So with the cars, he's got the separate pump islands, which, you know, they share one big canopy, but you've got the islands that are, so I don't know that having 24 feet for a single truck width, you know, isn't really necessary.
Well, but I think we should clarify that and make sure the verbiage is in there so we know it was intentional.
Yes, I agree with that, for sure.
And just for the commissioner's sake, thank you, Mr. Chair, that's the type of thing that you guys want to be fleshing out here so that we've thought of those things and have documented before we make a recommendation to the council so that we're trying not to discover any, as best we can, not discovering additional things at the council meeting. If we can dig it up here, give us a chance to research it and have answers when it goes to the council. So if this is the time to be thorough so that the planner knows what to follow up on, and Mr. Rademacher has a clear understanding of what the commission's gonna recommend. And not be surprised when the council asks more questions later.
But this is also in regards to something that's existing, correct? I mean, he's not gonna dig it all up and redo it.
No, but in this case, because there's verbiage in the city ordinance that says 24 feet between the curbs, it doesn't designate separate for the design that we've got here, the diesel.
Gotcha.
And it makes sense not have that much space, because if you do that, people are gonna come both directions. And so if the intention is to be one way, but we have an ordinance, we should address that, so it's formally addressed here, because we haven't had this type of request before. So on typical car islands, maybe 24 feet is appropriate. But for the diesel, if you're gonna go one way, we probably don't wanna be, certainly he doesn't wanna go that wide on his property. So.
Are the notes just then not removed since they don't apply?
Well, we'll make notes
Well, we'll make notes.
why, right, why we deviated or
The
why.
ordinance says this, but the recommendation
Okay.
is this for this reason.
Right.
Our ordinance doesn't cover one lane pumps, into pumps. That's what we're saying.
Right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Councilman?
City ordinance, at least the one that I'm referring to, does have the 24-foot requirement, so I would guess it's not including one lane, an assumption of one lane traffic.
Mr. Chair.
Exactly, yeah.
Commissioner Farrell?
One concern I have actually, because it's going to be larger truck traffic through those one lanes, is I think we just need to look into what it is that will make the movement through between the lanes smoothest for entering and exiting traffic. If it is less than the 24 feet, what will it be? So that it's not hindering the movement of traffic.
And that's a good point. That's again why you discuss it here, so you can say, okay, if it's not 24 feet, what is the recommendation? We have trucks, RVs, what types of vehicles be going through there? What would be the recommendation, so we capture that, whether it needs to be an amendment to the ordinance or simply part of this CUP.
Can I ask Mr. Rademacher what you've seen before, the footage? We have one lane.
Common is 14 to 15, according to our supplier. That canopy that we did in Royalton, I believe we have 16 there. So the islands are 4 feet wide of concrete, and then you have a 16-foot drive lane. So it's 20 feet if you include the 4-foot island that the dispenser sits on, and then 16 feet for the semi. Semis are quite a bit wider, so we give them plenty of berth. But this is a 72-foot wide canopy total with 3 drive lanes. So I think we're at 16 feet from curb face to curb face.
You have no problem with that then, 16 feet then?
No, that's the way we design it now. Yeah.
That's what you did then? Okay, because it's not in our ordinance. That's the problem we run into.
No, correct. And we did our first one last year up north, and we either did 15 or 16.
Mr. Rodmacher?
Yes, ma'am.
Another question in regards to, you made a statement at the last meeting about the width of this lot overall, if you wanted to put a building in there. So is that width of this lot also comparable to another lot that you also built these one-lane drives on? The depth of the lot?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
The depth of the lot from the 22 to the city property line, the north-south depth. Is it comparable to another one that you also have? Are we looking at?
Depth-wise, no, but that's why we have the minimal setback behind this building,
Yep.
which is why the city granted us that 2-foot setback or whatever it was back then,
Okay.
was because we couldn't get, I think we had 50 feet from the curb to the front of the bollards where the islands are, and that was a distance that we like to maintain. So the city allowed us to push the building back, which allowed us to encroach on the parkland, which is where we are now, which is why we're requesting that same setback on this lot, which is either between 0 or 2 feet, whatever it is, to match that curb lineup. We are pushing the diesel canopy almost flush with the front of the building, so we've got stacking for 2 semis out front. And then as they leave the island, they'll pull right out onto the service road. So we're a little cramped on space here, but we did push the canopy, what I would say, north to allow 2 stacking out toward Viking.
How wide is a semi? I don't drive one. How wide is a semi?
Typical gravel trucks are 45 feet to 50, which is what we get most of here. The big ones are 53 trailers plus different size tractors. I think you can get all the way up to the 70s, can't you, Mr. Mayor?
With the tandem, with the doubles on them.
Yeah.
That's the length. Were you asking?
Yeah, width.
Well, width,
Like, how wide is it?
width
If you have
typically-
16 feet,
8.5 feet.
I'm gonna say 8.5, anything else is a wide load.
so there's not
They
even.
have to fit on a regular road lanes here,
Yeah, but you come over here, A and B Wellings, they're a lot wider than that, aren't they?
but those are wide loads.
Oh, those are wide loads.
Yeah, they're identified as wide loads with flashers.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Liz,
Mr.
if I can ask her. I was wondering if they took in consideration the turn radius of the truck for that exit onto Nowland Boulevard. With the width of that driveway coming in, trying to turn the semi-truck into the one lane without coming into that second lane. I don't know if you got enough radius to turn the truck into the lane.
Yeah, it's not atypical for a truck to wait until they have the room to swing out, but yeah, you're right, it's worth a look and worth the city engineer's feedback on that.
Couldn't you compensate on the,
You could maybe
With the
make that
driveway?
radius a little greater to alleviate some of that problem, but remember too, you do have a shoulder there and, but yeah, it's a good point. So, let's see, back to our list.
B,
B, hours of operation. He has indicated as 5 AM to 11 PM Monday through Friday, and 6 AM to 11 PM Saturdays and Sundays. Which is pretty much what the ordinance states. They have hours limited to 5 AM to 11 PM unless extended by the city council as part of the CUP. So we're right within that, so we'll leave those existing hours alone, I would think.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mayor.
so do you plan on diesels being 24-hour availability as well?
Mr. Mayor, yes,
So my-
same as the gas islands.
So when the store is closed, the vehicles can pull up and get gas all night?
They can,
Okay,
and they can.
they can now, okay. Is-
Do they typically know that?
Lights are on, Mr. Mayor. Minimal lights, yeah.
I have a question. Are you gonna allow parking of vehicles? They could come in there and park for a while? Yeah, that's not gonna be allowed.
No, sir.
Okay.
I didn't hear your question.
No, parking of trucks and their trailers and stuff there.
Oh,
A lot
at
of
night?
peop- Yeah, well, see, a lot of people might pull in late and say, I'm gonna park here until morning to get fuel or something.
Well, they don't have to, because they get fuel all night long.
They what?
They can get fuel all night long.
Oh, that, okay. Okay, it's gonna be a credit card thing. Okay.
Okay, item C, canopy location and design. We already covered that. I guess we will, I'll get you the specifications. We'll check into this, width and the design specs for that canopy. Sign details will be forthcoming. We'll have a condition requiring detailed signage, the sizes of existing and proposed signage. And then that would be conforming to the ordinance requirements. If there's an issue with that, I would bring it back to you to discuss that at a later date. We could, if everything else checks out, you know, he could start with some of the other site improvements, and then the signage would obviously go on last anyway. So that would be, that's kind of to be determined then, but we'll add that as a condition.
I'm thinking about if this goes through, when they go out of the city parking lot here, is there gonna be some kind of sign there, no right-hand turns? To go up to his driveway there, because people might,
No, I hadn't thought about it, but I don't, why would you think that would be
Well-
negative?
well, you don't want people going the wrong way, it's gonna be a one-way street out of there.
Now that'll be two-way, the driveway will be two-way.
Can I clarify this? Yeah, sir, Mr. Chairman, that's a two-way street.
Well, it is a two-way.
Absolutely.
Well, I thought
That's a
it was just,
public- That's a two-way, 30-foot wide, in and out, full access drive into the parking lot and out. Just like the road going down Viking Boulevard for all the bars and the restaurants, absolutely open to the public.
okay, I didn't understand that,
Yes, sir.
because I know a lot of people go,
Just the pumps themselves are intended to be one-way.
okay, just the
There'll
pumps.
be
I thought-
two-way traffic on the drive to now.
Okay, I didn't understand it that way. Okay, thank you.
And, Ms. Stocker, I know we're not making decisions here, but I would absolutely anticipate a stop sign coming out of the city parking lot. We typically would be mandated to do that. Now, that's not, you know, we'll do whatever you tell us to do, but I would expect a stop sign to be there. Absolutely.
Yeah, the intention is that that driveway will take the place of the gravel one that's there now by the old house.
Yeah.
Probably it's cutting across the parking lot. So instead of coming down 5 and having to get onto 22, you can come down to that driveway and get into
A lot of people use it now.
Brent.
Yes, they do.
I use it that way.
Well, it's certainly easier to get out if you're going north on 5 than coming out and taking a left onto 22
Yeah.
at that high-speed traffic and then taking another left to the stop signs.
Item E, dust control and drainage. Everything related to drainage, grading, utilities, impervious surface, all of that would be subject to city engineer review and approval. They do meet the impervious surface requirement at this time. All areas that aren't shown as pavement will be surfaced with turf grass, with the exception of the gravel area currently on the corner lot. He is removing some of the gravel, as you read, to actually decrease impervious surface and allow for construction of that new driveway. So if that's, I don't know if there's anything specific you want to talk about relative to the drainage or the grading,
That's something, that's up to the engineer, isn't it, to look at that?
but yes, that would generally be the engineers.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Steppen.
Commissioner Wagner had the idea of a possible full curb in the back. Would that be something that the engineer would automatically look at, or could we direct the engineer to look at that and a full curb and a connection to the storm sewer?
Yeah, he would automatically look at that.
Okay.
For sure. It's based on the overall drainage and impervious surface calcs, yeah, stormwater calcs.
Yeah, I'm not certain if there's a grate back in that corner or not. Otherwise, this parking lot runs to the grate up here by the building.
Okay.
So I don't know if it would run from there across the parking lot to this grate, or if there's a second grate over in the corner.
Right, right. I don't know either.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, here.
So on the oil grit separator, pool storage, is there any type of spill containment on that property right now? If there is a gas spill or an oil spill of some sort, does that go into the?
Each dispenser has a sump, and all the hoses are, and the fill sumps all have, or the fill caps all have sumps. Is there anything for stormwater at this point?
Okay, so right now it just runs into your holding area.
This
Is everybody satisfied with allowing the engineer to review those items related to the grading and drainage? Okay. Landscaping. I think it would be helpful to have some recommendations regarding the tree removal and replacement.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Stan.
could we just ask for a one-for-one replacement of the trees that are taken out on the city property with a landscape plan to follow?
That would be great. Seems reasonable.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Any other comments on landscaping? No, okay. Item 1G, lighting. Really, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Rademacher can clarify, I believe the only lighting changes are really the recessed lighting in the canopy. Was there one pole light, I think, maybe, that was moved or something?
Yes, ma'am, the one parking lot right, light adjacent to the propane tank will be relocated 6 to 8 feet closer to the concrete, closer to the shaft itself, so we can lighten up that entrance point a little bit.
Okay. Thank you. So the plans and specs for the canopy will include the lighting. Item H is regarding access, circulation, truck turning radius. We've had quite a bit of discussion there. Any ideas as far as what you want to see for a condition? Do you want to suggest any changes to the site plan as you currently see it? Access, of course, we're waiting from the county. That's up to the county whether or not they'll approve that driveway access. If you feel satisfied with the way the trucks move through the diesel pump islands, it looks satisfactory to me. As I stated, they did widen that truck turning radius to go down the driveway. There was one comment regarding pulling out onto Nowland Boulevard. But I think in part, the county also, Commissioner Cleat specifies what that radius has to be as it meets the county right away. So that would be an engineering question.
I have a question. Are they gonna have to do anything with the turn lane? Say a truck goes out there and turns to the right, goes toward Twin Lakes. Is that turn lane, is the radius gonna be good enough there for a truck to make around there?
Yeah, I'm not sure, that would
A
be
semi?
completely up to the county. You mean turning onto Viking?
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Is it-
that's already been designed to accommodate multiple yeah, semi-trucks, very large vehicles.
That's a county issue, has nothing to do with
Yeah,
this. I mean, I wouldn't have any impact on this.
no, because the truck has to have a lot more room to make it around the corner.
Okay, so we'll default to the engineers again regarding that radius and the county. Item I is regarding pedestrian traffic, which is referenced in our ordinance, but we really have no sidewalks in the vicinity, so there's no connection, for instance, that's necessary. If you have any other thoughts about it, you know, he's got the typical sidewalks up by the building. There'll be people, of course, walking from the pumps, but there's nothing you can really do there.
Who are we waiting on here?
Oh, I was just seeing if there were any pedestrian comments, sorry. Nothing? Okay. Noise is referenced in the ordinance, but to my knowledge has not been a problem in the past.
It could, sorry. It could change, just because having a designated truck lanes might actually allow people to do a lot more convenience and filling. I don't know. Don't know that we get a lot of traffic through here late at night.
Are you referring to the noise? The ordinance right now is just talking about a PA system.
Oh, really?
Yeah, PA system playing music. A lot of pumps now, they have advertisements and
Oh, that kind of noise.
video and audio that play continuously. And so this is, they don't have a public address system from the building, and they don't currently have anything on the pumps. So some stations, you'll see that ads running. Used to be when Harvey had his, over here, you could hear him calling for different people in the back room because they had a big speaker on the building. At this point, that's not an issue, and it's,
Yeah,
the trucks themselves is not part of this noise
got it.
requirement.
Thank you for that explanation. Also, so the last item in one is item K, outside sales and service. I know Mr. Rademacher specified, he's got salt for sale outside, pretty typical things. Basically, what the ordinance requires is a designated area for those types of things, whether you have a pallet full of salt, whether you have the propane containers or, you know, firewood, whatever it might be. So maybe we should ask him, I mean, really, it's, really whatever he's been doing doesn't need to change unless there's been a problem, because the new pumps, really shouldn't involve any outside sales unless you're gonna be setting items out there.
No plans change according to your ordinance now. Propane and ice chests are separate from the 200 square foot minimum or maximum requirement, so we don't have ice outside. Right now in the state, we're about 158 square feet of sales if you base it on 8 pallets and our 30 square feet for firewood. So we're 75% of current ordinance, but we don't currently stack those types of merchandise over under the diesel canopy. Different customers. Those are truckers, not take it home mom and dads who are going to water, softener, salt. So different customers. So we don't plan any sales type merchandising in the diesel canopy.
Thank you.
Those public phones are things to pass now too. Kind of miss the old phone booths. While people drive off from the drive up, like rip the phone off as they go.
Okay, so,
The question I have, and it's, I guess it's not part of the ordinance, but thinking about the access drive and watching some of the people move rather quickly across the gravel area, is there a speed limit typically on something like that?
it would
Okay.
just, and, you know, on private property would be whatever, if he wanted to post it.
Just something to consider as you go along, because that,
Is it posted along the frontage road?
I don't think people know that's a road.
I don't
They
think
it's a
so.
parking lot.
They got speed
They have
bumps.
speed bumps, yeah.
We don't have it posted in Oak Grove, Mr. Mayor, about the same length, 300 feet. Hasn't been an issue, but we have a lot of sheriffs parked behind the store, and it changes the way they patrol. Not opposed to it, slow sign or something here, I mean, I'm not opposed to that if that's something that the city deems necessary.
Something to at least keep an eye on, whether it's speed bumps or, I know our sheriffs typically sit over by the fire station, but they're welcome to come over here as well.
Let you know a lot.
You have heard, you've had mentioned that before. So. But yeah, I just see that as I watch some people zip across that parking lot to get to 5, it could be as a straightaway, something to watch. Because it is adjacent to the park. I can see kids coming from the park to get to Bill's for pop or candy, and so something to be aware of.
Okay, good, so condition 2 is regarding Anoka County access approval, we're waiting on that. Condition 3 is regarding the lot combination request is submitted and approved by Anoka County. Condition 4, motor fuel facilities installed according to state and federal regs, which I'm sure Andy Schrader will ensure. The signage plan required. Item 5. Item 6, the new driveway shall be set back X feet. We should decide exactly where you want it, if you like it where it is. You know, appears to be right about at the property line, maybe, like he said, a foot or 2 off.
We'll take the map that's existing with this, behind his existing building. Is that a 1 or 2 feet off or something?
I believe it was a 2-foot setback initially.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner.
I believe on exhibit E3, it shows it 3 feet. Is that correct?
Does it have a distance on there?
It looks like 3 feet. I'm just asking for clarification.
I can't read it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah. 3 feet, okay.
As long as they match the existing, I think it'll be fine.
We could say 3 feet, minimum of 2 to match existing. Item 7, any comments on the city parking lot realignment? We heard Chair Ames say a few words about that. Really not a Rademacher requirement or responsibility, but maybe just generally some discussion about it would be helpful.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner. Earl.
My look at this parking lot rearrangement is that by moving that entrance from the county road into his proposed driveway, it looks like we might gain 4 or 5 spaces there in the parking lot when doing so.
It's possible we might gain a few, yes, but north-south wise, you know, the center drive lane is not gonna line up exactly with where
Oh,
the
okay.
piece coming north is.
Okay.
So
You'll lose
it'll,
on the other side.
yeah, we may lose a few on one side and gain on the other, but I think you may end up gaining, yes, a few.
I couldn't quite tell.
So other than the pavement itself, we've got to contend with the storm sewer in that location, so I'm hoping Shane will comment on that item.
Were you anticipating the county saying to close that driveway
There-
during this one?
There was discussion previously that Councilmember Bettinger remembered. So we looked back in the minutes about what the discussion was. And all we really had to go on was the previous site plan, which showed that shared driveway actually straddled the lot line previously. But because of the park grant that we have on the parkland, removing any portion of the park area from the total is a no-no, because you have to go through all these very detailed, requests, and I forget the name. There's some sort of process you need to go through. So then at that point, Mr. Rademacher just said, fine, we'll ask for the 0 lot line, we won't ask to straddle the lot line, so, just to keep it simple. But there was some discussion of it previously. There was nothing set in stone that we know of, and nothing from a county standpoint. But apparently they had conversations with the county regarding that, because the county is always on board with eliminating access points, as you know, so. That's about all I know about it.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Mary and Ms. Stockman, so if the county comes back and says it's all right to leave the city entry on the south side of our parking lot and add or redevelop the one from the Rademacher property, we could leave ours and not have any change.
Correct.
So it's just all up to what the county says.
I believe it would be up to what the county, what their recommendation would be. Okay, so it sounds like everybody's okay with it kind of either way, depending on what the county states. Okay. And we'll get Shane Nelson's opinion on that as well, related to the storm sewer. So existing parking space sizes are grandfathered in, and no additional parking is required at this time. All handicap parking shall comply with ADA standards. That's not an issue. Submitted plans shall,
Chair,
pardon,
question on that, though.
okay,
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mayor.
So in the handout that you had, the package you prepared, you had parking of a total of 26 spaces currently, located on 3 sides. The requirement under the current zoning ordinance is 31.
right, when I did the evaluation, we always assume that each each side of each pump is a parking space also. So that's where we came in, yeah, with that.
And does this take into account the parking that's available? I know we don't like trucks out there, but on 22 where cars park out there between the pumps and Viking Boulevard.
No. I only counted what's on his lot, up around by the building, and then the spaces adjacent to the pumps.
And is that area between the pumps and the turf there, is that considered part of that service road too? Is your property, or does the service road end there at the bank?
Service road starts at the bank, Mr. Mayor, as far as I know.
Okay, so that's all your drive,
Yeah,
right?
okay. Item 9, submitted plans shall be subject to city engineer review and approval regarding all grading, ponding, and site circulation issues. Plan revisions or stormwater calculations shall be submitted if required. Item 10, I just had a question about any comments on the farmer market. Basically, he's, continuing to provide a space for it. The only thought I had is now that it's kind of a one-way area, if there were any signs that the farmer's market wanted to provide about, or how to deal with circulation, that may be something that they would have to reconsider. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on the matter.
But that road's still gonna be a two-way.
Well, but see, they can't come from the north anymore, so they have to
Wait a minute,
enter.
Wait a minute, you just said it's two-way, you go both ways on it.
Yes, but it doesn't
And
connect
not
any.
directly to the gravelled area.
If you look at the site plan, Chair Ames, it does not connect anymore to the gravel area, so he needs to have that green space there for his impervious surface, to balance out the impervious surface.
In other words, you won't be able to go off the road at all then. Is it gonna be curved there or something, or?
Yes. So you just have to come in the other way. I mean, there should be a way that you can sort of make a circle around through there and then back out. It's a big enough space, to do that. In my opinion, the farmer's market will just have to figure out sort of a different layout for their stands.
The curb is gonna be that big in there?
It'll just be a regular curb, 6-inch curb.
Okay.
But there will be no access directly to the gravel lot from
No.
County 5.
No access.
Not from now then Boulevard.
You'll
so-
be able to come in the new driveway on the north end of the property and come around by the building. But to get into the actual gravel area, you'll have to come in where you come in off of Viking Boulevard right now.
Now, what happens if he puts something additional into his lots there? They'll still have to come in from the other side?
I'm sorry?
If say he'd put another building in there to have some other business there.
Well, then the farmer's market wouldn't be located
No, but
there.
I mean, even if he put another business, then you got that curb there, you still can't go across that curb, you said.
There'd be a whole different site plan at that
You'd have to
point.
change
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Right.
Whatever
yeah.
he's doing at
Yeah.
that point,
Okay.
we can discuss then, but the access would be, and curbing would all be considered at that point. But for right now, the access to the farmer's market would be between the propane tank and 22. And that's in and out.
That's all they had when they were over here. What's going on?
Yeah, it's, again, if people are driving carefully, that's just fine.
So maybe I'll just put, farmer's market responsible for any signage or, reconfiguration of the layout or use of that gravel area.
People want their fresh fruits and vegetables, they'll figure it out.
Yeah. Okay, item 11 is regarding requirement for a building permit and review and approval by the city building official. Item 12 is just saying all costs associated with this review are Mr. Rademacher's responsibility, and that's the same as the application states. So that was good conversation. Any final remarks? What I'm hoping is that we can finalize these findings and then move this forward to the city council.
Okay, anybody else have anything comments to make on the planning and zoning?
Will this be reviewed by the engineer before the city council meeting?
That's what I'm hoping. I don't know that for certain. Yes, I hope so. I believe in part he was waiting for, the county's feedback as well. So I will try to get in touch with him. I would say that if there's any major changes to the site plan, that it would need to come back to you. But would you agree with that, Commissioner Wagner?
Yes, and I guess I'm also wondering about a landscape plan, that'll be up to you to review then,
Well,
or will the city council see that as well?
it could be, or if you'd like to specify now where you'd like to see the replacement trees, you know, maybe you want them just along the lot line, or maybe you want them clustered, straight north of the new diesel island, whatever you think is best, it might be helpful to specify.
I would think they should have a plan done by a landscape architect, I guess, to know where to best put them.
Mr. Chair, it's the two large maples, between the south side of that curve, Mr. Chairman, and the rocks, where the rocks will be, there's two large maples that will be staying in that green space, which is where the farmer's market should eventually have their tents and their wares. Those maples have a significant canopy now. I've been absolutely fine with adding trees. Where the city wants them, you point them on the park plan where you want them, and we'll put them wherever you want them. I'm just not sure that in that green space with those two large maples, and again, we push all of our snow, not on city property, but south. So I would ask that we don't put it within 10 or 15 feet of the curb line, because they're not gonna live very, they're gonna be squashed.
Yeah, and that's more my thought is along where they might be the best along, on the city property, whether they should be farther to the west, so they more screen the canopy, or some should still remain, I guess, to risky, screen this parking lot, I guess, as well, too. Or from here towards the
I don't know if the city
pumps.
has irrigation out here. I mean, again, we'll certainly put them on the city property. If the city wants them, we'll put them on the city side. We don't, we're amicable.
The only problem you don't have much clearance there on the other side of the ballpark. There's not that much room in between the ball fence and the trees, right?
There's no fence there, sir.
No, I mean the
The
ball
softball fence.
The
No softball fence.
Yeah,
Between the softball fence and the property line,
yeah, there's not too much room in there. I don't know if you'd be able to put any trees in there, would you, Mayor?
I think it'd be pretty tight.
Think about it, let us know. We have a landscape plan starting. We wanted to get through the notes here tonight first, but putting trees is really, I think, kind of arbitrary. Where we want them, where the city wants them, is going to be apples and oranges. So I guess I would look for, you tell us where you want them and we'll put them there.
Well, don't think should that wait until later to look at that, or?
You have my word to read your trees.
Well, I don't think, it's not worth holding the project up if you want to just kind of give an indication where you think they would best be served there.
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure where the fences are and whether some should remain up here where these ones are coming out, whether you just replace farther over. And some will probably his canopy up here or something like that.
Being this is dealing with the park, should the park and rec look at something like that?
I was just gonna ask that.
Were you gonna say
I
that
would,
too?
yeah, I wanted to suggest that maybe maybe he could just talk to the Parks and Rec and see if they have suggestions on where they would like some trees, one-for-one replacement. Maybe they're not all right here, maybe they're
sure.
elsewhere, so.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yes, Councilman.
Mr. Chair, I understand wanting it to come in front of Park and Rec, but replacement of trees is really a day-to-day maintenance issue, which is responsibility of staff and not the Park and Rec. That's just my thought.
Well, I think the staff would have to have some guidance too,
That's staff's job is to
Yeah.
know.
because as Mayor pointed out, there's not much room over there to put trees in.
No, but I think that the idea that was suggested, that it doesn't have to be along that line, because again, if there's a chance that the parking lot here exits into that service road, you want to make sure you're not blocking any sight lines there either. So, but there's certainly between this building and that road is an opportunity to put some trees in on the outside of the softball fence here that would provide some cover to the use of this building from the commercial area without having to put everything along that property line. So I think it's reasonable to have a landscape plan that says, if you're asking for a one-for-one replacement,
where will they be that doesn't just, put a barrier right back where it is right now. You still have to get around the outside of that softball fence to cut grass and to access the gate back there. So.
But like Mr. Rodermark pointed out, you're gonna have to be back in that lot line quite a little ways.
Yep, so I think it's incumbent on the city to determine where it's gonna be. He's already said, you'll get your trees, you tell me where you want them.
Well, as I look at it, you'd have to go out there and really look at it close, because I don't think you could put trees actually back this way much further than where they are now.
Well, you can, where the horseshoe pits are. There's a lot of room between the horseshoe pits and that property line.
Okay,
Not between the softball fence and the diesel islands, but,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
who is our liaison for the park? Oh,
Right
you,
here.
okay. And does, maintenance personnel actually attend? Like, for instance, does Joe
Mr.
attend?
Chair, Ms. Stockman, yes, Joe does attend. I am the liaison, Joe does attend. It would be my thought, if we are looking to determine the best location to plant and what to plant, I would defer to a landscape expert that would know what should go where versus our staff.
Especially as it relates to the drainage there, the storm sewer. We probably don't want them right on top of the pipe either.
if you're gonna do something like that, you'd want a column or tree rather than something as bushy as what we've got there now. There are some trees that certainly are taller and thinner and provide a nice barrier if you need that. But I think if you could spread them out along the property here, it would be much better to take advantage of that to build a nice forested area.
Okay, does anyone want to try to draft a condition to that effect?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
could we look at it from, not having Parks and Recs design it or maintenance people design it, but have a landscape architect design it with the input from Parks and Rec, or if they have any ideas that they want to implement?
I'll have our engineer put a plan together, it's part of the bid, so I'll submit it. And then if the city wants to relocate, they can do so. Ms. Stockman, submit that to you, ma'am?
Yes, that'd be great, thank you. Okay, that's what I'll put, review, submitted, and then reviewed by staff and park board.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, what we need now is a motion to send this to the city council with the recommendations that our planner has given, and also what our engineer will be giving, and also the things that we discussed on these different items. We don't have to go list all the items, do we?
No,
You have to list anything that you want to specify on here. And my notes I made were the discussion on landscaping, identify what you're requesting or what you're recommending. The item 6, the driveway setback, the grading issues, snow storage, again, landscape plan. What you want to do with the parking lot realignment. What are your recommendations on those things specifically, along with the other findings of fact? I don't think you have to reiterate every one that you agree with wholeheartedly, but anything that needs more clarification, you need to give us your input on.
There was, yes, Liz.
oh, thank you. Well, I feel like we've already
This,
gone one by one and specified. I guess it's hard to, without an actual final copy, to say whether it's 16 or 12 or however many conditions. But, I don't know, I guess I feel like we've already specified, I know that it's, you know, it's not part of the motion, but maybe just referencing the discussion we had. And then there's always the city council, you know, can take a closer look, but I have very good notes here, and then I think with the minutes will be okay.
Well, let me ask specifically, since I'll be the liaison and have to explain this to the council. On the landscaping, it was suggested a one-for-one replacement with the city to determine where that's located. Is that the commission's recommendation?
Along with looking at the landscaping plan,
With the landscaping plan?
yes.
We have to decide, after we see the landscaping plan, where the trees actually end up.
Right.
But first of all, we have to determine, a number of those trees are on Mr. Rodemacher's property, and we have nothing to say with that. But any trees from the city property that would be removed, are you recommending a one-for-one replacement with the city to designate where that's going to be? After reviewing Mr. Rodemacher's presented plan.
I thought that's what we agreed upon.
Well, again, that was discussed, but I want to make sure that's what everybody's agreeing on.
And just to, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, to add to that as well, I guess something to consider is we're talking about him replacing about a dozen trees or whatever that he's gonna take off the city property. He is actually taking down probably 30 trees or more. I mean, do we want any other trees replaced somewhere else? I agree, leaving those nice maples out there is great. But the fact that he's taking out, 30 trees are between his property and the city property, do we want any more than that, I guess? Should it be a one-to-one replacement for all the trees coming out? Whether they're
That's what I'm saying,
all on the
clarification,
city
because
property
general
or
discussion isn't
anywhere else.
specific recommendations, so.
Yeah, yep. And is that something we should leave to the, is there anything about
The comment before was,
replacement in our ordinance right now?
no. And since he's not putting up, the building itself, it's usually based on the square footage of the principal building, so we can't base it on that at this time. So our initial thought was, one for one for those removed on the city properties, the way I understood it.
Right.
If you want to change that.
There's the potential that trees will have to go back later, right? If a building goes up.
Yeah, I don't think you want to place them in the area
Right.
Right.
where there'd be a future building.
Yeah, I don't really see adding any more interior to the site, I guess, but our only question is, do we want more added to screen in between, because there was 30 trees there, and now there's gonna be.
Right, but they're also like pretty much doubled up too, so I
Yeah,
mean,
Yeah,
divide that by 2 a year down to 15 trees.
But my understanding is Mr. Rodemacher is not planning on any additional trees on the green space, just leaving the maples at this point.
That's correct.
I guess the other consideration is a one-for-one, these are all nice big mature trees, odds are he's gonna be putting in a 2 or 3 inch tree at this time. So it'll take a while to make a nice buffer again, so.
There is a requirement on size that when they plant a tree, so I believe an evergreen is like a 5 or 6 foot.
Again, you're the recommending body, so be specific.
Makes it very
Don't
difficult.
make me interpret what I think you're saying.
I'm personally okay with 1-to-1, but if somebody else is.
I would say a minimum of 1-to-1 with a landscape plan to be provided for review and approval.
1-to-1 for trees that are currently existing on city property?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Okay.
And those species of tree and size of tree,
As determined by the professional.
Should be
landscape.
proposed by the landscape architect. If there's something better than what's there, that would be or
But
similar.
I think to say a 2-inch sapling versus a 5 to 6 inch or 5 to 6 foot evergreen or, I don't know if we designate trunk diameter on
We
a deciduous
do.
tree, but.
We do designate caliper, so I can get those numbers to Mr. Rademacher.
I guess the other question is, what do we want it to be evergreen, so it's a permanent screening instead of seasonal?
I think that's gonna depend on the landscape plan. If you're dispersing them in various locations, I think you could have a mix. They have leaves, Joe may not like them.
So we're waiting for somebody to make a motion to,
All right, just, and again, so in your motion, 6, did you decide the driveway setback should be 0, 2, or 3 feet?
I would like to comment on that one.
yes, go ahead.
Based on the plan, the site plan that they have proposed, it says 3 feet, and I believe we could do a 3 foot with a minimum of 2 feet setback from the north lot line.
And let me ask this, to clarify, do you want to be that north line to be consistent with the existing north line behind the
Yes,
building?
as proposed on the plan, yes.
Is that your understanding as well? Okay. And the grading issues, that's gonna be up to the engineer. Snow storage, you said you're gonna be trying to get south.
South, yes, sir.
And the parking lot, exit realignment, we're gonna wait to hear what the county has to say. Hopefully, we can hear that before the city council workshop. There's a note in here on all handicap parking shall comply. Does that need to be reviewed?
Mr. Commissioner Wagner had at one point made a comment thinking it wasn't compliant. So I don't know for certain, no, to answer your question. Mr. Rademacher feels that it is compliant, so somebody will have to go check it out and actually measure. Do you have the van accessible space currently? Okay. But either way, it's gotta comply when he's restriping and doing the curb work. Now's the time to.
Because basically, all he's asking for here now is a permit for the parking lot setback and a conditional use permit for an expansion of the fuel facilities.
Right. Conditional use permits.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
does this have to go to the consecutive city council meeting, or can we stipulate in our motion that it wait to make sure we have the engineer's report?
You could table the request. Yes, you could table it to your next meeting. The public hearing then gets continued. Or if he's already closed the public hearing, we don't need to continue that part. We can just table your decision until the next meeting.
Otherwise, it automatically goes to the next council.
Otherwise, it will go to the next council meeting.
Just a clarification, did we post this as a public hearing?
Yes. Did you open or close? I don't remember.
No.
Don't think so.
This wasn't,
No, it wasn't listed on the agenda as a
this
public
was, it
hearing.
wasn't listed as a public, this is not a public hearing.
Oh, that was my error then.
Oh,
It was advertised for a public
was?
hearing. Yes,
okay.
so that's my error. Well, then we should,
Better open it quick and then we.
we better open it, see if anyone wants to comment.
So how do we handle this? In both cases, they were public
Were
hearings.
they both public hearings?
Were they both public hearings?
I thought you didn't do it.
No, it doesn't say that.
Yeah, they were.
Because I treated it here as a
That's my fault.
non-public.
Laura, you did send out the letters.
Yeah, the letters went out and everything, so.
We met the official requirements, people that wanted to show up would be here.
Yes, right.
And the
There's,
only thing is, at some point, Dale has to actually open the public hearing and close it.
okay. So do that now.
Yes, Mr. Herbert.
You have a public comment?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, Robert Johnson, 18585 Cleary Road, and I also own property across the road. I'm really concerned that the county's gonna lay down the law, or do like they did in Oak Grove with the 22 and Brown Lake Boulevard. They changed the drainage, they changed it, widened the turn lanes in both north and east and west, I mean, both directions. They put in stoplights instead of stop signs. And I think it has a big effect on the property here and how they do it. And I just think I don't know when they're gonna do it, but I think it'll come, and it's probably not too far away. Surprised they did it so fast in Oak Grove, in spring I drive through there, there'd be stop signs, and the fall was stop lights, and I think the same thing can happen here, so that's the only comment I got.
And for the, Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mayor.
for the commission's benefit, the planner and the engineer and the clerk treasurer and I did meet with the county. And while this is eventually designated as a stoplight corner with turn lanes, it's not imminent. It is in their, it was in their 2030 plan. It's now been moved back to their 2040 plan. I don't see it happening as, Oak Grove, they talked about it for quite a while. They discussed roundabout first and settled on the stoplight. But that is something to consider down the road. And I think this access is, it could be a right-in, right-out only eventually. But I think this access will serve for quite a time based on, and Liz, correct me if you interpret it differently, but based on what we heard from the county engineers, this is not high priority on their list at this point because of the traffic volume.
Yes, that's what
We
I.
can't even get them to decrease the speed on it, so they're thinking the volume is insufficient. So it's a good point and it will be coming, but it doesn't seem imminent at this point.
I would
No.
agree.
Now, I got a question to ask. Do we have to table both of these then, being they were public hearings, and open it at our next meeting?
No, the public hearings were properly noticed, and you had public discussion, but you have to officially open a public hearing to see if there's any other comments.
Both of them?
Yes,
Okay,
and were they
okay.
noticed together, Lori?
No, they were noticed separately.
Okay, so we can notice them,
Okay, so,
open the one, ask for discussion,
okay,
and then if you have no additional discussion, close it, and then open the second one, ask for discussion.
okay. Okay, we'll open this first one is a request for a variance for a reconstruction of fire damaged home by Todd and Mary Hallbeck.
Was that a public notice too?
Huh?
Let's,
Public hearing?
let's do the one we're on first. And
The what?
then let's open the public hearing for the Rademacher one, since we're still on this
Oh, okay.
topic.
Okay,
Then we'll go back.
okay,
Is that okay?
okay. Do I have to read all this? I read it?
No, you don't have to read it
Okay.
again.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing, request for a use permit for parking lot setback and conditional use permit for the expansion of motor fuel facility by the Bill Superette store. And any discussion? We'll just take and add what we discussed earlier to this.
Mr. Chair, that's correct. You asked if there were public, or you asked for comments. We've had all the same people sitting here. There were no public comments.
Okay. Okay, we'll close the public hearing. And now we've acted on it already.
Right, so let's finish the Rademacher topic, get a formal motion and second.
Okay. Okay,
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to see this come back to the planning and zoning again, once we have more information. I think there's too many pieces missing right now.
there's a motion on the floor. Does anybody second it?
That wasn't necessarily a motion, that was a discussion
Oh, okay.
item.
Oh, okay.
Do we know when the county comments are due back?
You know, I thought they had to comment, pardon me, Mr. Chair. I thought they had to comment within 30 days, but, and it's been every bit of that, I believe.
30 days is their requirement.
Yeah, so, and I did, as it said, I sent an email last week asking for any comments, and they haven't responded at all, like, I'll get to you next week or anything. So, yeah.
I think, cause I would agree. I mean, it's only 3 weeks away, right? Cause this got moved back a week. And hopefully we would have those county and Andy and Shane's comments.
Is that your motion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Before he makes a motion there, can I ask
Yes.
Mr. Rademacher? What does this do to your building plans, putting it back a month?
Just keeps pushing us back in the fall.
I'm guessing, what questions do you want to see cleared up?
Some recommendations. For me, I think that exit onto Now Then Boulevard's kind of a big issue for me. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine, having trucks come out and block both sections of traffic when it's exiting somewhere. So I'd like to see that compensated in the driveway somehow. There's plenty of room there. You could make a wider turn where he can just take up one turn lane when he's coming in Now Then Boulevard. That's a simple fix, and I'd like to see that done.
Mr. Cleary, can I tell you, we do request 40 feet, and the county has always minimized. So we'll go as wide as we can. 40 feet is as wide as we've ever been able to request. And what we got on the Viking Boulevard is what they typically narrow us down to, the 34 or 36. So I'm with you. If we can push that thing open, any credibility you can push the county on, please do so. We would appreciate that.
Mr. Rademacher, is that the width of the driveway radiuses themselves, is that in addition to that? Or?
No, so the roadway's 30 feet.
Yep.
But they radius those curbs out to be 40 feet once it hits the right of way.
So it's-
And I'm not sure where they do their measurements at, but
Okay.
40 feet is what we've always requested, and Ms. Rose always pushes us narrower and narrower based on the county's wishes.
We had that discussion on County 5 when they did driveways, and they narrowed that up. Saves a lot of asphalt, and they're responsible for the apron.
Correct.
So it does save the county a lot of asphalt if they can reduce that. The question I would have for the commission then is, that this section of road on 5 is a 40 zone. And they have less than that on to 22, which is a 55 zone. They've got the same problem pulling out onto 22 that you'd have onto 5, but you've got 15 miles an hour faster on 22 than you'll have on, you're supposed to have here. So.
What I run into is the trees tend to be the disturbance pulling out onto 5, so.
And I think if you clear that back, and there was a question last time when we were talking about the Ings property, 2 driveways on 5. The county is responsible to keep 30-foot clear off that shoulder. That's what they were doing down on 181st where the accident was. So they are responsible to keep all trees out of sightlines, whether it's driveways or new roads coming in. The county has to keep those trees cut back from the sightlines for people pulling out. So that area, the trees will be cleared by the county to keep that sightline open. But you are 15 miles an hour slower posted on 5 than you are on 22, if that's one of the concerns. The county's gonna say how wide it can be, and you'd have it slightly slower there. I think if Mr. Rademacher agrees with the findings of the engineer, as far as the drainage and curbing and things like that, again, you can make that a condition that, based on those findings, you're saying that abiding by those, you can make that your recommendation to the council, and ideally, the county and the engineers have weighed in before our next meeting on the 8th, the workshop on June 8th. Which is
Okay, I understand there's not a motion now. Does somebody want to make a motion?
If I'm just Chair, one more question, just to clarify the timing of that, you know, what, theoretically, what would the council do if, you know, we approve it here and for council consideration, but the engineer's report has not come back yet? Could the council table it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if the council doesn't have the information that you said was required,
Mhm.
we'd be obligated to either force that before our meeting, or the option is to table it.
Thank you.
Someone want to make a motion?
That's too big for my britches.
Mr. Chair, I will take a stab at it if we can edit it along the way. But I would make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit for the motor fuel sales and the parking lot setback under the condition that the findings and recommendations from our planner are met, including all the recommendations and the edits and to the recommendations that we have made are met.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Sutliff. Someone like to second it?
I will second that.
Second by Commissioner Pearl. Any discussion? Seeing no consensus.
And
Yeah.
from discussion, don't let me overrule you, I just want to clarify that, you know, if the county is the restrictor on the width, there's limited.
How can we make a decision as a commission before we have all this information? We can leave it up to, you know, if this engineering report goes this way, or we don't know which way it goes, we don't know any of this information, we're just gonna say, yeah, I mean, if they all agree to it, sure, we'll agree to it too. That's the way I'm looking at it. I mean, I know he wants to get his stuff done, but we're just bypassing our process here and sending it to city council to make the decision about it. That's just the way I feel about it. There's too much information missing, you know.
Any further discussion? Further discussion? We'll call for the vote. All in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Okay, we'll go on to the next, we'll open the public hearing, a request for a variance for reconstruction of a fire damaged home by Todd and Mary Hubert. We've already discussed it. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Did you open the hearing?
I open the hearing.
You have to close the hearing.
Okay, let's close it. Anybody want to make a motion that what we discussed previously be added to this motion?
Can I make a motion to keep what we previously did?
Okay, Commissioner Pearl, do we have a second?
Yes, I will second that.
Or Commissioner Moen and Commissioner Pearl?
The attorney signs the other way.
Yeah. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. I'm sorry, Liz, I should have caught that.
No, I'm sorry, because Ms. Strike asked me to review the agenda, and I did so, but not appropriately.
Okay, we'll go on to the next item. If I can find my notes now. Okay, it has to do with the ordinance, the fee schedule adoption. Has everybody looked at it? Did you see some change? There's some changes in there. It's marked with questions. You want to explain that, Liz? Our planner?
Yes, Mr. Chair, and before, this is also a public hearing, by the way, so
Oh, it is a public
this
hearing.
was noticed. Fee schedules have to be a public hearing. fee schedules have to go to the planning and zoning and city council to be approved.
Okay, excuse me a second. We declare the public hearing.
Thank you. The council has gone through the fee schedule at previous meetings. So we provided you a redlined copy so you would be clear on what the changes were. Most of it was, I guess, sort of obvious changes. In other words, the animal control fee was upped by the provider of that service, so we upped it accordingly in our fee schedule. Many things throughout, we were just deleting things that were redundant and or could have been combined with another line item. So not real significant changes in terms of content. There was a question on page 5, under number 24, item F, no rental charge for government groups, senior citizens 62 and older, funerals, Now Then Lions. And then the question was whether or not the Heritage Committee should be listed there to not require a rental fee for City Hall facility and use. I don't remember, I want to defer for just a moment to Jeff Pelon and ask him if he remembers any discussion on that item at the council level.
I do not. I know in the 9 years we've been a city, we've never charged the Heritage Committee for the facility, so it's been understood, but I don't recall any discussion there. They could probably find somebody 62 or older to.
What would be the difference between, what's the difference between that and Alliance? They're both a community service.
They're both community nonprofits. And I think, you know, when they're doing a community service, they're not out trying to make money for themselves. The difference between, you know, the Historical Power Association, they're out to make money on their property there. But these are both organizations that are out to aid the city, but they're not officially associated with the city. They're independent nonprofit organizations, so. And right now, I think those are the only two in town. And it could be broadened to other nonprofits that are doing things to enhance the city. But right now, that's the only two we have, so.
I also read it there, the way I read it, senior citizens, that's senior citizens anywhere, it doesn't just mean now than senior citizens. For instance, St. Francis could come, their seniors can come over here and get the facilities, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
The way it reads, yeah. I mean, again, if that's what you want, if you want seniors from any place coming and renting it.
Well, that's what I'm reading. Yes, Mrs. Rainbow.
Mr. Chair, in reading that too, whenever I'd read it before, senior citizen 62 or older, in my mind, always equated that to the